Okay, I'm glad Victoria's is a bit tongue-in-cheek because mine is similarly tongue-in-cheek. It's Christmas, so it's pretty relaxed. For a start, how many of you work in an organisation which I would call over the wall? So one bunch of you build some stuff, you chuck it over the wall, and some other people pick it up and do stuff with it and curse you, and then the blame goes back and forth eventually, and you figure it out, but you get something running. How many of you do that? None of you? Some of you, okay. I've been building software for about 20 years. I've done DBA work, I've done ops work. Most of the time I've been writing code and managing people writing code. For 10 of those years I worked in a place like that. I'm better now, but I'd occasionally go back to it and I see plenty of them. So this is my little tongue-in-cheek transition story, you might call it. So, hold on. Sorry, just check. That's better. For some reason this isn't working. Okay, I'm going to butcher a piece of literature. I'm sorry if any of you are really attached to it. I apologise in advance now. Okay, so take yourself back 3 years. It's Christmas Eve. Scrooge is a fellow who runs a company. They build this general ledger, let's say, accounting software. And he has 2 employees. They're all based around Silicon Roundabout. So he has an employee called Bob Cratchit, who is his ops guy, and Tiny Tim, I'm bending the story a bit here. Tiny Tim is a software developer because times are hard and he had to come to work very young. So it's Christmas Eve and Bob is there. They've had a blowout in prod. He's there up to his neck in keyboards, everything else. His pager has given up ages ago. No charge left, was buzzing off the table. Tiny Tim's gone home because he's a bit ill. So Scrooge, being Scrooge, says, Bob, you're going to have to come in tomorrow and do support from the office. And you're not getting paid. Off he goes down the street. He starts thinking about his ex-business partner, Marley, who's now dead. Not quite sure why he died, but he was very old school. So Marley would have been a very big fan of this over-the-wall thing. He was an ops guy. He really didn't look like developers. Thought they were unnecessary, but, necessary, but didn't like them. Took their code, did what you want with it, cursed them. So, Scrooge goes home, okay, thinks about Bob, thinks about Marley, goes to sleep. He's kind of falling asleep. Suddenly he's visited by the ghost of Marley, and Marley is carrying these old machines. He's carrying these AS400s, and do any of you know these things? RS6000s, probably long gone now, muttering something about this cloud thing. And he says, Scrooge, you're going to have to listen to me, because if you don't, something really bad is going to happen. You're going to be visited by these 3 spirits over 3 nights. Listen to what they have to say and do something about it. And Scrooge says, but Marley, we were doing so fine. Look at us in the heyday. We're doing great now. Look at Bob. He's probably fixed all those problems and might have even got some sleep. Marley says, listen, we're gonna do this. And off he goes. So Scrooge, next day, doesn't do very much, goes to sleep, really worried. The ghost of Christmas past comes in. Ghost of Christmas past takes Scrooge back to when he started the company. Sorry, I'm a few slides behind. Just give me a second. As you can tell, these were done quite in a hurry. This is when Marley was alive. Scrooge's favourite saying, this is the way we've always done it. And Grace Hopper, who didn't like that saying very much, quite wisely. I hate slides. I spend most of my day doing slides these days. Okay, Christmas past. So Scrooge is looking at when they started out. They had the best general ledger package on the VAX in history. Has anyone ever seen a VAX? Know the VAX? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, best general ledger package on the VAX. And there he is, celebrating, very happy, everything's good. Why would you not want to stay there? The next night, comes back, okay? Goes to sleep. The next night, the ghost of Christmas present turns up. Very happy, very jolly, and he says, Ghost, what are you going to show me? So the ghost goes to, sorry, the ghost doesn't go anywhere. The ghost takes him to Bob Cratchit's house, okay? Bob Cratchit isn't there because he's still in the office, working long hours, like ops people sometimes do, and developers sometimes do, trying to fix the problems they've got because the system's a mess and it doesn't work. So Scrooge feels a bit bad and says, how's Tiny Tim? Well, Tiny Tim's still ill, he's not having much for Christmas. He's sitting there reading up on something he's got to learn, but he's not having a great time. And the next night, goes to bed really, really worried, right, because things aren't looking good for him. And surprisingly, the ghost of Christmas yet to come turns up. The ghost of Christmas yet to come doesn't say very much, but he takes him down the street to the edge of Old Street and, Slocum Roundabout, looks at his office. The old sign's fallen off the wall, is in the rubbish bin. And there's a bunch of hip young kids there wearing beanies or whatever those things are called, sticking things on a wall, high-fiving each other when things go to production, which happen quite a lot. There's lots of high-fives going on. Scrooge cannot believe what he's seeing. So he says to the ghost, who isn't very talkative, tell me, what happened? Where's my company? Where's Bob? Where's Tiny Tim? So the ghost, who starts talking finally, says, you went out of business. You were beaten by smaller, more nimble, much faster outfits who could outcompete you. And they built a product in the time you were fixing all the problems with your old product. So, he goes to bed. Doesn't know if it's a dream, where he is, what's happening, how much he drunk the night before, whatever else has caused this. Wakes up, it's Christmas morning, none of it happened yet. What does he do? He goes into the office where Bob Cratchit is there. Again, pager buzzing away, working hard, trying to fix his problem, desperately trying to fix his problem. And says, Bob, what do you reckon we should do? I'm going to step out the story for a bit because it was kind of hard to maintain up to that point. But the point I'm trying to make is I've seen this happen a lot of times, not the Christmas Carol bit, but I have seen resistance to change. I've only got a few minutes left, but I've spent the last maybe 5 or 6 years where I've gone into places, into companies. I've taken very large, old-fashioned systems. We used to call them open systems. They run on various, would have been proprietary Unixes at one point, sometimes even other boxes like AS400s and so on. And I've generally used a lot of DevOps tools, and some of these are very new. I see one of you's got a Concourse t-shirt there. Fantastic tool, that's one of the latest ones. What I found is I've used microservice approaches a lot because of, I think you mentioned it, the cognitive load, the batch size. If the batch size is small, you get some of the effects that people have mentioned. If anyone's read the book, The Goldrat's Theory of Constraints, it's fantastic stuff in there that can map to software, not that well sometimes, but it has been used very well. The Phoenix project talks about it a lot. What I found is that cognitive load, small batch size, being able to get things out quickly. I've been in places where the time to get code from commit to prod is measured in quarters, if not years. And I always asked the question when I was a young, impetuous kid, I suppose, what would it take to get something up? If it was really broken and you had to get something up there, what would it take? And the answer always was a really, really bad problem and a very, very small fix. So I asked the question once, just out the top of my head, what happens if everything was a very small change and you got it up, you kept going, and someone just laughed at me. And I can see why, I didn't phrase it very well, but the more I see that I think you've got to understand the difference between a release and a deployment. But the more you can deploy to prod safely, using things like feature toggles, blue-green or whatever you call it, whatever colours you want to pick, the better life gets for you and the easier it is to actually get. Software has no value till it runs. And I think until you get things out there, you're really kidding yourself if you think you're creating value. One thing I would say, I introduced a lot of tools in places because I was a bit gung-ho sometimes. And sometimes, I think, talking of Concourse, I went from using GoCD, Jenkins, to something else, finally got to Concourse. Concourse worked quite well in the last time. Be careful about introducing a lot of things. The other thing you can get is the island of DevOps. I have been playing with a tool, is it here? Stackstorm, some of you have seen it. It's quite good at gluing these things together. There's lots of things like it, but you do end up with lots of disparate pieces and there's a lot to learn. You have to be very conscious of that. But I do think the biggest thing is cultural change. And whether you've got a Scrooge in your organisation or whoever, you have to win them over. You haven't got ghosts at your dispersal, but you have to use things to prove that your methods work. That's the end of the story.